Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film Birth, Rebirth. It's a Shudder exclusive, and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, November 10th, so this is a no-spoiler review. Now, I will have a little bit about the themes and the subtext at the very end, but I'll go ahead and warn people before I start talking about that, so if you want to drop out so you don't know any of that stuff, because I know some people don't like to, some people do, you can just drop out at that point. So, again, coming to Shudder exclusive coming Friday, November 10th. Birth, Rebirth was directed by Laura Moss. This is the individual's first feature film. So honestly, from a directorial standpoint, for being a first feature film, I think there's a lot of accomplishment here. There's a lot of really good technical stuff that's going on with this film. The script I really liked too, for the most part. I enjoy this movie. I do encourage people to actually watch it. I thought it was pretty good. Seen some people talking about how it's amazing. It's one of the best films, horror films of the year. I'm not there with it, but I did enjoy it enough to definitely recommend it. And it may hit differently for different people, but I thought it was good, and it'll be reflected in my rating at the very end. But the film was written by Moss as well as Brendan J. O'Brien, this is Brendan J. O'Brien's first feature film as well, writing. So again, from a writing standpoint, first feature film, really good start. So the two of these individuals, very good start for film careers, so I hope they keep going, they get a lot more work, and I hope this is a good springboard to kind of get them there. One thing, I don't want to get too far into the review without mentioning this, but one thing I need to say is for anyone who has problems with animal harm in films, this has that, so you might want to avoid it. I just try to always bring that up if I see that in a film, because I know that's a big trigger for some people, and they literally do not want to watch the film if that's involved in it. So I try to be courteous to these people. I can handle it if it's not real. You know, like older films where it's like real animal harm going on and you can tell, I'm not interested in that. But if I know it's not real, or it's like off screen or something, which this one is, I will tell you it is off screen, but there's sound involved, so it is a little tough, but yeah, just saying. So quick synopsis. This is about a woman whose child it's about two women specifically. One woman whose child ends up getting sick and passes away, and then another woman who is involved in the medical field, and she's been working on something in her free time that may help out with the woman who just lost her child, and these two end up coming together, and that's what the story is mainly about. I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to say too much. Obviously, my synopses are always pretty vague in that sense, and I don't believe in giving away as much as trailers do. Trailers give so much away. So anyway, let's get into talking more about this. The opening events create a very hectic and confused feeling, and I like what they did with the very beginning portion. You'll see what I mean if you watch the film, how the beginning portion has a lot more significance later on, and you'll see what I mean by I like what they did with it. But it has this like very confusing, very chaotic, hectic feeling to start the film, which I thought there was going to be more of that echoed throughout the film. It does happen a few other times, but I thought there was going to be a lot more like that. I thought it was like, this is setting the tone. This is what it's going to be like. And I kind of did want more of that, but it's a good way to start the film, and I understand why they did what they did with it. So, good start. The score. One of my favorite things about this was the score. Very interesting score. It's slow and distorted electronically, and it creates a very constant feeling of kind of unease. I love when you're able to do that with a very interesting score. Not only does the score really enhance that kind of feeling of unease and give it some really good atmosphere, but the composition of the score is quite interesting. And there are parts where it sounds like someone's using like a theremin. If you don't know what a theremin is, look it up. There are YouTube videos of like people playing them. Very interesting instruments. So it sounds like someone kind of using like a theremin, but then also after recording it, like altering it further electronically. Very interesting. I've never heard a score like this before, honestly, and I would like to hear more of this because I thought it worked extremely well. Very, very good. Some of the acting is not the greatest. It sounds kind of like people actually delivering lines. Like, you're like, oh, I can see that this person is just delivering lines. For the most part, I think the acting is pretty solid where it really needs to be, but there are a few kind of like fringe characters where you're just like, not the best. And there's one interaction early on in the film, and one of them involves one of the actors who I think went on to do a lot better in the film, but early on, like, this interaction just feels totally off, and I was like, I hope this is not what I'm getting into with the movie. And it really, for the most part, it actually wasn't. It was just one of those moments where I'm like, man, I don't know why the performances were like that in this scene. It was definitely not intentional, but about 9 minutes in, there's a pretty ridiculous scene that ended up making me laugh. Now, I'm not saying that in the sense of it took me out of the movie, or I thought it was stupid, or it was too much for me. I appreciated its ridiculousness, and you'll know what I mean if you actually watch the movie. It's something that hits you as particularly ridiculous because you didn't see it coming. I'm gonna pause there because some people will understand what I just did there. But anyway, it's something. It caught me by surprise, and I did enjoy it. It was a nice kind of like funny moment where I could kind of laugh through it. But with the way the film is shot and with some of the weird stuff in it, especially early on, before they kind of establish what's going on here, it all comes together to have like this Cronenberg vibe. So if you like Cronenberg vibes in films, which are a good thing for me personally, I think they captured that pretty well. It looks really good. Also, directorially, cinematography-wise, it looks really well. Things flow quite well from a visual standpoint. So very accomplished in that sense. I know I already talked about great directorial debut right here from Moss. Some character reactions and relationships don't actually seem very realistic. I do feel like there are a few character things that get rushed a little bit that I think maybe needed a little bit more time, but I can understand why you wouldn't do that, so I also appreciate that they didn't do that. But there are some things that happen and things move like a little bit too fast, some reactions that characters have with each other, relationships, one particular relationship that's forged, that the way it's forged doesn't seem very realistic, and you really can't see it actually unfolding that way. So it kind of took me out of the film a little bit from that perspective, but not too bad. Like, you can still go along with it. There are moments of humor, but I overall don't think it went with the feel of the film. I think this film was already too steeped in like a particular feel and atmosphere and subject matter, so that when these moments of humor come in, they feel like they don't fit at all. They feel very off. It feels like it's taking you out of the moment and breaking that atmosphere and the flow of what was created for the film. So I think they should have kept it very much just straight up what they were establishing from the get-go. No humor. I just don't think the humor fit. It is hard to get humor to actually land properly in horror, and this is kind of proof of that, because I don't think it went well. Some people are going to disagree with me, and that's good. You know, I hope that it lands for you, but it just really did not land for me. It clashes with the movie, in my opinion. The ending does feel kind of flat to me as well. I was expecting it to kind of build a lot more towards the end and have a much bigger finish than what you end up getting. So I can see a lot of people, me included, being kind of disappointed when the film ends and like, oh, this is how we're choosing to end it. Okay, I guess. I mean, it's not a bad ending. There are a lot more ways they could do what they actually did there in a more exciting, more intense, more interesting way. And like I said, it just ends in a very flat way. It falls very, very flat. So I think that was a big mistake. Well before the end of the film, you'll be making comparisons to a very old, well-known story. And I will just leave that there. So you'll know. People will pick up on stuff very early on. Like, oh, this is very much like this. So now is the point where I'm going to let you know, if you do not want any of like the thematic or like subtextual stuff ruined, go ahead and turn off. Everyone's gone? Okay, here we go. There's a component of this that tries to show how cold the world can feel when you're going through something traumatic. There is an aspect of that. It's not the main point of the film, but there is a decent point. Like, they do make it a point of showing this. They do make it a point of kind of bringing this home. where if you are going through something traumatic, you do feel very much alone. It does very much feel like the world is not quite hostile towards you, but unfeeling and uncaring towards you. So I thought that kind of came through pretty well. And then the last thing I wanted to say is the film deals heavily in the dehumanization of the medical profession and how unfeeling it is towards patients, especially female patients. This is something that is kind of like societally a very important thing to talk about right now with a lot of things that have been going on in the world. So it's very common that horror films do this. You know, they'll take something that's kind of like a societal issue that's being struggled with at the moment, and they'll reflect that into horror in one way or another, and this certainly does that. But I like that they're kind of putting that into this because it is something that I know a lot of people, you know, of every gender are probably feeling with the medical profession at this point. And it reminds me a lot of something that my wife always says. She says, you want a doctor who's had enough experience and been at the job long enough that they know exactly what they're doing and they have a lot of knowledge, but you don't want them to have so much experience that they are kind of burnt out and they're not as, you know, they're not as open to viewing you as more of a human being. And yeah, I mean, that's not exactly what she says, but the gist. But anyway, I'm going to leave that there. I did enjoy this movie enough, and out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it a solid enough 3-star rating. Thought about going to 3.5. I just don't think it was quite there. If I did quarters, I would do 3.25, but I'm going to give it a 3-star rating, and this is where I'd love to hear from other people. Go ahead and put it in the comments. Let me know, did you like this film? Did you not like this film? Were you in between? And just give me a sentence or two letting me know why. Do me a favor, help me boost this video, do some thumbs ups on it. Also, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That is your best way to repay me if you like any of the free content I put out, including this video. And hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing at least 3 a week. At least 3 like regular size videos a week, and then some like short ones. But anyway, thanks everyone for taking time to watch this. And until next time, keep it brutal.